Episode 7 of the International Teacher Podcast, recorded May 8th, 2021. We share online resources for international teaching and international schools around the globe. Of course, besides our podcast, great resources. And Matt shares one of his favorite stories, which he calls the 100 Days of Power. Welcome to the International Teacher Podcast with your host, Greg, the single guy, and Matt, the family guy. We're recording episodes from around the globe to tell you about the best kept secret in education. That's right, it's teaching overseas. We're glad to have you.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, international teachers, want to be international teachers, former international teachers, and anybody who happens to be tuning in from a random foreign country. This is the International Teacher Podcast. My name is Matt, the family guy, and with me is...
And I'm Greg, the single guy. Welcome back, Matt. It was good to have you back here. I missed you last week.
I have been on a brief hiatus. I've had a 2-week break between my master's classes. I have been spending as little time in school as possible.
Oh, I thought one of your twins might have just super glued your other twin to the door or something like that, and you had to get him off.
Nope, we just left him. That's okay.
All right. As long as the twins are okay. One's okay.
That's right. It's good to be back. And I know you've done a fair bit of interviewing and recording, so I can't wait to catch up and hear some of those and listen to the people that you've been chatting with on there.
Well, you know, when I do that alone, it's not as funny by any means, Matt, but I do try and get other guests. Like we've talked about, it's hard for us to get both of us together with somebody from overseas at a different time zone, working with your family schedule, our work schedule, my completely dead open schedule.
My lack of schedule is hard to schedule.
Well, you know, the single guy, it's easy for me. Not for you, the family guy, though. Not easy to meet up and do that. In between, whenever you miss, or if I was to miss, then you can take it off and do a solo interview with somebody else. Because we have lots of interviews coming up, Matt. Lots to fill up that library.
Definitely plan on doing that. Hey, for those of you who wanted to check in with us with questions, complaints, suggestions, feel free to hit us up at our email address of internationalteacherpodcast@gmail.com. But we are also on IG, Instagram, and that is the ITP Expats, ITP Expats. So you can check us out on there. Greg, I think we're on Twitter too, aren't we?
Yes, Matt, we're on ITP Expats on Twitter as a handle, or you could do a hashtag ITPXpat, and we'll get that too.
Excellent. We don't have a lot to say on Twitter.
We don't do much on Twitter. I usually just announce it, and I think it's because we have so many different programs we're allowing people to use for their favorite app to get to listen to us. And while we're doing that, Matt, can we just talk a little bit about Facebook? I love Facebook. Again, I'm sort of a born-again Facebooker. I know you've loved it a lot, but I just wanted to plug us because you know what? There's this group called the Globetrotting ADs. They sort of give us a challenge. I'll read it to you. It says, "Hey, Greg, I will listen to your episode as soon as you can. Could you add Austria to your list?" You know, we have like, what, 40? Yeah. We have 45 countries now.
Sure, 45 countries tuned in.
At least one listener in 45 countries, according to our analytics. Anyway, this guy's like, add Austria to your list. The Globetrotting ADs, that's a Facebook group, are currently at 132 countries plus 48 states. I mean, they're keeping track of their state.
Okay.
You have your work cut out for you, but I'm sure you'll get there. Yeah, okay, thanks. That's Nick DeForce. He's on Facebook, you know, and I'm on all these Facebook groups. So I want us to get that many listeners, and I have to thank our listeners that are in, 45 different countries, dude. Isn't that fantastic?
We're starting to make our way around the world. When you make that jump overseas, the world immediately shrinks. Let's say you left the Middle East now. How many people could you go visit in various countries from around the world that you couldn't have prior to going overseas, which is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No kidding.
Or, you know, so-and-so that has a house here or there, and you can always stay there. It's almost like in one of the spy movies where you've got safe houses all over the place, except nobody's running around trying to kill you and things like that. So what sorts of things you want to talk about today, Greg? What's on the topic, on the docket?
Matt, are you a spy? You mentioned safe houses. Are you really working for one of the three digits?
Like this, I couldn't blend into a. I don't even know. I don't even want to go there. I'm not going to go there, Greg. Not going there. So, Greg, you and I talked a little bit about, let's say somebody has decided they want to go overseas and they're interested in checking things out. What are some common or typical resources they could look into that would be of interest of them that they would be able to use to help them look further into this career option?
Oh, I got the first one, Matt. Can I do the first one?
Go for it.
Okay. The first one is called ITPie.com or something. TIE Online. It's the International Educator.
TIE Online, Greg. TIE Online.
TIE
For those
Online.
of you that don't have a short memory, it's TIE Online.
Well, I didn't want them to think it's TYE or something, or
Way to
TIE.
spell it out for him.
You know, like
Online.
THAI or something. It's not Thailand. It's TIE. It's like tie your shoe.
Yes, sir.
No, Matt, I wanted to just point that out because ever since, I think they've had a newspaper since about the 80s or the 70s even, without even researching it. They've been around a very long time. They put out a quarterly magazine or newsletter, if you will, and it's packed with information about international schools. It's like the go-to for international teaching around the world. It's also like $30 for the whole year to go online yourself. You can publish your own resume. You can find jobs that way. It's really like the go-to thing. So that's number one. That's my first go-to. What's yours, Matt?
TIE Online is my first also. You know, once you get into job hunting season and you start writing schools, you're probably not going to hear a lot back from most of the people. But using the resources available on TIE Online, I found it to be the most up-to-date website, the cheapest website, the most accurate website, and they had contact information that wasn't available through some of the other sites, which was kind of nice. For example, when I wrote the head of our school organization, I got his email address from TIE Online, and he wrote me back. He's like, "Hey, great to meet you. How did you get this email address?" And I was like, "It's on TIE Online. Anybody can get it." And he's like, "Oh, I better tell him to change that." He's like, "Well, since you got a hold of me, let's talk." Which eventually led to us getting hired, 2 years later. So it worked out.
Well, yeah, I've been with them since 2000, I think. I signed up with them just to learn about international teaching when I came back from the job fair, because somebody at the job fair told me about it. My first one.
For sure. Yeah, TIE Online was definitely the way to go.
I got the first one. You get the second one.
Okay, this resource, take it for what it is, I have found to be... Okay, let's go there. I'm going to do a little describing. I'm going to see if you can figure out what it is. And I know we have some friends that are going to giggle as soon as I say this, but there aren't a lot of resources available that will tell you about a school. And it kind of sweeps the dirt, I guess it reveals the dirt rather than sweeps it aside. When you move overseas, you're committing your life. You are committing yourself. You're committing your professional skills to these places. And some of these schools are not what they say they are. Some of these are subpar organizations. And there's probably been too many horror stories of people arriving and you get off the plane and you think, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And so there's a school site called International School Review that I love because I have found that former teachers can go in there. Well, teachers at these schools can go in and they can provide reviews for the schools themselves. Oddly enough, like my former administrator, one of my favorites, called it closeyourschool.com. This is why I say you have to take it for what it's worth. There's definitely people that go in there with an axe to grind. They want to let it be known, listen, this is what I really think of this place. And some people in the international circuit might kind of guffaw at my choice here, but I want to know what I'm getting into. This website tends to reveal it. For example, when I left one of my last schools, I made sure that I went in there and I left a positive review that reflected not only my professional experience, but my experience as a member of the school community, as a member of that community itself. And a number of people had left negatives, which is fine for them. But I wanted to make sure I put positive things in there as well.
I know what it is. I figured it out because the minute you said dirt, it has to be International School Review, ISR. Is that what you're talking about?
Greg, I already said international school
No,
review. Yeah.
I wasn't listening. I was getting a drink. I was away from the mic. Well, let me tell you something, Matt.
Stay with me, Donnie. You're like a child who wanders into the conversation.
Oh, what are we doing now?
Little Lebowski reference. Can we reference Big Lebowski on here? Is that prohibited? Or can we do that? Our podcast, we are pro Lebowski. Yeah, international school review. I think it's like, again, $30 a year. They've got schools from all over the place. Some of the reviews are a little, okay, take it for what it's worth, but it's going to give you some background information. If you go to a school that has 35 negative reviews, you probably need to ask some questions at your interviews. And then the administrator will giggle because they'll know you've done a little bit of your work. But then you're also going to find other schools that have a lot of great reviews. And from most of the people that I've talked to internationally that have actually worked at some of the more negative schools that I've read about, they were like, yeah, that was totally accurate, by the way. I was there. Take it for what it's worth. Great resource, closeyourschool.com or International School Review. Great website.
Well, I've been a part of closeyourschool.com ISR since I think it came out.
Oh, you still have a membership?
Since 2001, I've been renewing every year because when you're in this field, like anything else, you're going to look for the dirt. You're going to look for the good stuff. You're going to find the good pieces and weed out the good stuff from that website, right? Because it's a great website for information if you have a grain of salt with you. I have to have one in my pocket right now. I go back to that every year and I renew because I want to know what's going on. They have great ideas in there, a lot of bitching and moaning, people that were not happy at schools.
Earmuffs.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. All the schools I've worked at have pretty much been in there listed. I have an alternative for you, though, Matt.
All right.
I just found out yesterday, I think it was in the International Teachers Group or International Single Teachers Group on Facebook, that you have to be a member of. You have to be experienced to be a member of that and get invited. Here's the resource. Number 3, the resource is called International School Community. And it's like $50 a year. It's a website. It's not a recruiting job fair, but it's actually a super website about salaries, if they're posted, by schools or comments by people. There's information about schools. They do highlights. They do job searches for you. I think they want to be your headhunter. And I haven't looked at it deeply enough because I just found out about, 2 days ago. I've researched a little bit about it, and they do have like 2,100 schools on there that have comments over the years. And I don't know where these guys have been hiding. I usually know almost all the resources. New websites are coming up, new headhunters are coming out every day. Anyway, there's lots of things. This resource number 3 is called International School Community, and I'm actually going to put some of these in the notes below our podcast because I need to start doing that like other podcasters do, Matt. So number 3, that's mine. What's number 4, Matt?
International School Community. I'm going to check that one out, and maybe I'll touch base with them too and just give them a heads up that we're showing them a little love on here.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for checking that out. I pulled it up on Instagram. I'm going to check that out and add them to our page for that.
I don't rave about things very often, but I was very, very happy to have found this resource. Now, I don't know about you, Matt, but I am always getting ready to find my next job. I always have a backup plan. So what's number 4, Matt?
My next one is just a common one that a lot of people use. I don't know how heavily utilized it is by teachers themselves, and that's just LinkedIn. LinkedIn is... Greg, are you on LinkedIn? I didn't look for your profile.
I've been there for years, man. I think since 2013 or 14.
I always kind of considered LinkedIn to just be Facebook for the business world. But then as I've been pursuing the second master's degree, they were talking about how heavily utilized it is. And I was like, really? This is just like Facebook, but for professionals. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. But I've since signing up have found out that it's an incredibly easy way to contact people. And it's really easy to touch base with people, to meet with people, to ask people who are working in those schools questions. And it gives them a forum outside of their international school organization for them to kind of give you the inside, give you the 411 on what it is like to work there. So I would definitely encourage people to check out just LinkedIn as well with a great resource.
That's a great plug for LinkedIn. I use it all the time. It is like the business Facebook, but your resume can go on there. Your history of other schools can go on there. It matches you up with other people that worked at those former places too. all the places you work at. LinkedIn does that as a business. It's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's getting to be so much noise out there with so many different products and so many things that are being pushed out. You really kind of have to concentrate your efforts because it's easy to get spread too thin. And, as we go through this, I'd advise people to, a lot of people say to cast a wide net. I prefer to cast an effective net versus a wide net. And for example, some of the things we've mentioned so far are definitely going to help get the job done. What else you got for us, Greg?
Well, is this number 5?
5.
Okay, number 5 on our list. My next one is Joy Job. Did you ever hear about Joy Jobs, Matt?
Joy Jobs. I have never heard of Joy Jobs.
Joyjobs.com, just like it sounds. And it's a couple, Pam and Igor. I don't know who they are exactly, but they've been on here forever. I mean, since probably 2000 when I first looked at them, they were already established. Sure. They have lots of reach. You can post your resume, connect with other schools. They have a long list of connections, and they help you through the resume process. So I think there's a lot of information on Joy Jobs. I think one thing I want to caution is they don't help you segregate between like a small little the International School of My Garage versus the accredited International School of Asuncion or something like that, right?
Sure.
There are certain accredited places that we teach at. A lot of them are first in their country or third or fourth in their country. And Joy Jobs doesn't always make that clear. That's one caution I have. They have lots of stuff on there, though. I like it. Number 5, joyjobs.com. You're up.
Joy Jobs. Nice. I really like that one. I'll bookmark that one too. So Pam and Igor, I'd check that out. Maybe we need to touch base with them too and say hi.
Probably chatted with them once or twice. So they're great people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. My next one isn't really a surprise because it's tied to a job fair. But as you know, I've always given shout outs to University of Northern Iowa. If you're wondering what you would search, I just type in University of Northern Iowa job fair or University of Northern Iowa overseas teaching. You are able to pull up their basic website that gives you a history of services they can provide and things like that, employment databases, resources for people looking to go into teaching, overseas teaching, introduction to overseas teaching, pretty much anything that gets you set up from start to finish. I remember going in here a billion years ago when we looked at going overseas, and I found this to be an incredible resource, and they've done nothing but update it since. And since that's the job fair that I've preferred to use, I definitely want to give them a plug. Great pieces of information.
I love you and I. You went to 2 of them. You and Stacy went to 2 different ones, right?
Yeah, we went to 2 different University of Northern Iowa job fairs and had multiple interviews at both. Found them to be incredibly well organized, despite the large number of people that were there. Now, Greg, you said you didn't think they had one this year, obviously.
They were virtual, I believe. They were virtual just like the other job fairs were. But you know what? I have to tell you another secret. So ask me what I know.
What do you know?
Well, funny you should ask, man. I've been to 3 of those, and I have still been active with them, I think, since about 2000. Even when I don't go to their job fair, I sign up just to be a member so that I can have access to their database. Isn't that cool? That's
a commitment right there.
Well, I love this stuff. I love the recruiting idea. I'm writing a book about it, which is going to be published soon. And I have to keep up to date on all the jobs that are out there and the different schools and the movement of the heads of school. And I love the way you and I sends out their information and really treats their recruiting people really well. Just can't say enough good stuff about it. That's number 5, right?
That's correct. That was number 6, actually. But that's actually it for my short list. I didn't have a ton of place. Like I said, I rather cast an effective net than a wide net. And so I don't look all over the place. I've got a few that I know that work, and I haven't really had a reason to go past or be above and beyond those.
Well, Matt, I took my shoes off so I can count up past 10, and I started on my feet.
So you could drive your car.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I could drive too. I do ride my scooter like this. There's 3 other things I want to plug then too while we're talking about. There's a lot of people that go through ISS, which is
International School Services.
Thank you. ISS, International School Services, and Schroly, which is one company now. They do job fairs. They do them around the world, and they do them twice in the United States. They've been virtual actually since 2015. Did you know that, Matt? They've done virtual job fairs.
I was not aware of that.
It might have been 2014 that they started their international virtual ones in the spring and in the fall, and in between they do the face-to-faces, right? That's ISS Schroly. The second one, or excuse me, that's number 6, right? Let me look at my feet. Yeah, that's number 6. Number 7 is the ASA Fair, which is the American
Association of Superintendents of South America. Yeah,
I'm better with the letters, the ASA Fair. So that's mainly with Central and South America, and that usually has a job fair in December down in Atlanta, but you can find them online. The final one I want to mention, of course, is Search Associates. Search Associates is another headhunting firm. They do job fairs just like ISS and you and I. And that's another great resource. They have job fairs, but online you can pay for it. They're a headhunting service, a little bit more personalized, they say, than something like you and I or ISS. Any of those resources, that's what, 8? I think we got up to 8, didn't we, Matt?
9.
Math was never my thing. Never.
It's all right.
While we're talking then, let's talk more about the job fairs, because once you do all of your online stuff, and some people keep up to date on all the online information. After you get a job, you keep involved with the up-to-date information on all of these websites and all these companies. Do you want to talk a little bit about recruiting fairs, even though they're not going to be in person probably until 2022?
Do you think that might require a whole episode itself?
Okay, so let's not talk about it. Let's tell stories instead.
Well, we can. It's just I think if we keep this to limit this to resources, that might be a better. Like, for example, it would probably take 35 minutes to walk you through the University of Northern Iowa job fair process. And you've gone to the ISS fair, correct?
Yeah, I've been to 3 of those.
Okay. Yeah, I think we might be better served, do these services we might give people a better idea what to expect if we put a whole episode toward that.
Well, like I said, Matt, I really think we should just move on and talk about more resources. Or if we're done with resources, I don't want to talk about the job fairs, Matt, because that's a whole different episode at least. Like I said, I think let's tell stories or something.
You want to tell a story? Yeah, we can tell a story. Do you want me to tell the 100 Hours of Power story from Benny?
I can't wait.
You weren't actually there for this one.
No, I want to hear a new story.
Oh, my goodness. I got to tell you about this one. So this goes back to my first year. This is 2008, and this is in our very first month of school. And this was kind of what life was like in general living in Venny. So we had frequent power outages and things like that, which I was definitely not prepared for. After 5 years, a power outage wasn't a big deal because our buildings had generators and things like that. And so I'll get more on that in a second. I'll talk about how you utilize the generators and stuff. So we typically have the power go out for, 5 to 6 hours a day. But then after how many days in a row, and pretty soon you just start to feel like you're losing your mind. And it's nice because you live at this tropical place and you have all these pools and there's a beach. Oh, I just want electricity so I can make some eggs or something. And then there's other times where the electricity is on, but then the water goes out. And it's like, okay, so the laundry I needed to do is going to have to wait. Okay, so there's no electricity, there's no water. I guess we go to the pool. And really, it encourages drinking problems if you think about it. But so anyway, my first month, the teachers and I we were all sitting down at lunch one day, and we started talking about, you know what, we need to have a party. Let's have 100 hours of power party. We're like, yeah, this is early September. Once we have 100 consecutive hours of power, we are going to have a party. Okay. Well, we had just assumed that would be right around the corner. So we had all these mini parties in place of the 100 hours of power party. That's a whole another thing. But anyway, we got through the end of September, no 100 hours of power party. We get through October. Still haven't hit 100 hours of power. We get to November. Okay, now we had been there since July 28th and had not had 100 consecutive hours of electricity. I think it was November 3rd or something like that. It was like a Friday. It was kind of a dubious day because we hadn't even planned to have the 100 hours of power party. This was the day we all got robbed. So let me tell you about this, Greg. So if you want money, so if you have US dollars, and when you were in Veni, if you wanted to convert that to local currency, what you would do is send that with our school courier. And we'd write them a check or give them cash or whatever. And then they would go to the local bank where they would wait in line for 7 hours, because that's literally how long it takes. You want to cash a check at a bank, it's going to take you 5 to 6 hours of standing in line. No, the lines aren't extremely long either. It just takes a long time for some reason to cash a check at a bank in that part of the world. Once you start questioning the process, you will begin to drive yourself insane, as I'm sure, Greg, you can attest to that. So you don't. So the school would basically pay a guy to be somebody who would stand in line. So anyway, he would stand in line. Then he would go to the teller. They would cash the check. They convert our U.S. currency to local currency. And then he would go back. He'd jump in the car and he'd bring us the money. On this particular day, this typically happened there, the teller, who then handled, I think we had given him $1,500, another couple given him like $3,000, another couple given him $2,000. So he has, you're looking at like $6,000, $7,000 worth of local currency, which is a big deal there. So then what the teller will do is there will be a car waiting outside, and she'll say, okay, this so-and-so is going out of the bank. Watch for him. So then what they'll do is they'll tail his car wherever it's going. They'll try to find a traffic jam where they will then jump out of the car with their guns and all that and hold the guy up in the middle of the traffic jam. And then there's multiple ways. They'll either run away, they'll either have motorcycles waiting to carry people away, or they'll just get in their car and somehow drive away. When you have guns down there, people tend not to mess with you. So this guy left the bank. The teller called somebody. The car tailed him. He came back to our school. They opened our security gates. And the robbers, the malandros, they rear-ended the car and pushed him through the security gate. They jumped out with their guns. And I don't know if I ever told any of my family about this story. So sorry if I haven't told you this and you're just hearing it firsthand now. They surrounded the guy's car. The security forces at our school, obviously, they don't have guns, so they... what can they do? So what they did is they kind of formed a wall around the courier car. And the robbers were like, listen, you know what we're here for? Just give us the money. We'll get out of the way. Nobody's going to get hurt. And this was also at the very end of our school day, Greg. And so you had all of the buses there. You had kids all over the place. Greg, I was 12 feet away. I walked right past it and I didn't even know it. I had no idea it was even going on. And I remember seeing the car out of the corner of my eye. And went right past it, 12 feet away. I was going in to check my mailbox. I still remember, because then they got the money. They jumped in the car, took off they went. They slammed the security gate shut, and I come outside and everybody's screaming and yelling and there's chaos. And I'm like, what's going on?
That's scary.
Just checking my mail. And yeah. So we had lost $1,500. Another couple, a few $1,000s. Yeah, it was crazy. And so we decided, well, I think we should have a party and get drunk, because we just lost a bunch of money. And we're like, yeah, I mean, and when you're teachers, that's a lot of dough to be losing. And so we got together that night, and about halfway through, somebody realized, oh my God, we finally hit 100 hours of power. Yay, we'll start cheering, and you fire up the blender. Greg, literally 6 seconds later, the lights go dark and it just gets quiet. And I'll never forget this. One of my favorite coworkers of all time. I'll just call him Steve O. I don't want to say his whole name on here in case we have him on here as a guest. His name was Steve. Great guy. You just hear him say, oh, bleep, bleep, bleep. And the room just got quiet. And then pretty soon everybody starts laughing and cracking up. And we realized we'd gotten robbed. And we, had our brief 100 hours of power party. And it lasted about 6 seconds. The timing that day was incredible. So that's our 100 hours of power party, followed by we got robbed on campus by armed dudes, which would have been really freaky, but none of us really saw it. So that was just kind of another day in the life in Venezuela. So that's my story.
Was Venezuela at a point, wasn't it? And I tell you what, those kind of theft things that went on in there are some countries where that's real, but it happens in other countries too. It happens in the U.S. in big cities, right?
Yeah.
Just not the kind of story that you just wove for all of us. And
maybe not quite like that.
I'm impressed how you wove all of those things, the theft and the waiting in the bank and the power outages. You hit a lot of things in that story that make my memories just start reeling off about living in Venezuela.
Yeah. I know my dad's probably going to hear about that, and I'm going to hear about it from him. Like, why didn't you tell me about that? I was like, I didn't want to freak you out.
Well, there's certain stories that we don't share with our family members back at home until years later when they know it's not going to affect us anymore, but they're not going to worry about us.
Yeah, and sadly there's a few too many of those stories, but
right.
What's funny is after a while, it's just like, that's just the way it goes.
Let me share a story now with you, Matt. This is a story about Kuwait and living there. You know how when you arrive at a school, a lot of times they'll have a minibus that takes all of you together to take care of paperwork, whether it's a government situation or a driver's license or to rent a car, to go to shop and find out where things are. So they'll put you in a minibus in the first week or two, and they'll take good care of you. Usually the bigger schools do this as part of their onboarding. The better the experience you have when you first arrive, the more likely you are to stay for your whole contract and throughout many years after that. And I remember this like it was yesterday because we tried to open up bank accounts. So we all jump in the bus and we had to leave the school, and there weren't any students in the beginning, but we had to leave the school and get there by 3:00 because the banks were open until 4. But they closed the doors at 3, and if you're not in the door, you can't go in to the open bank because they closed the doors at 3:00 to finish up whoever's in line. So we all jump in the bus. We get there at like 2:59, and the bus drops us off. We all jump out and run in and hold the door open. The guard's trying to close the door. One of us is holding it open so the rest could get in. We all get in. We're all breathless, and we stand there in line, and I'm going to open a bank account. Well, they open a bank account for me, but they can't do anything about the fact that they don't have any cards to print. So the printer's working, but they don't have any plastic cards to give me a debit card. So a week later, the students are there, but they still pull us out of school and they say, well, we'll provide subs or something. I don't know how they did it, but we're going to have to leave early from school, jump in the bus before 3, and then rush to get there by 3:00 again. So at the last minute, we rush out the door, get in the bus, drive through traffic, get to the bank, and I go up to stand in line, and they're going to print out my card, but I can't sign the paper because they don't have any paper for the printer. So they couldn't give me the plastic card that I did get for my debit card. I had to go back the next day to get
paper?
Yeah, I should have brought paper. They didn't have any paper for the printer, so I couldn't sign it.
What were you thinking?
Oh, I don't know. I should have brought my own paper. After the 4th or 5th attempt, finally, we got our bank. But we had to always remember that if you wanted to go personally to that bank, we had to go into the middle of the city. There's only one city in Kuwait anyway. So Kuwait City, we had to go in the middle of the city, in the middle of traffic, and we had to go and get there before 3:00 sharp because they close that door. Then once they close the door, you're in there. You're in there for an hour, and no matter what, they're going to finish up their job within an hour. From 3 to 4, everything's finished, and hopefully it's not Ramadan.
I'll tell you, international banking. I don't even know what to say sometimes. I feel like every time I've gone to a bank overseas, it's like the very first time what I'm requesting is the first time somebody's requesting something. I can totally empathize with you on that.
Do you know that where we live right now, this country, let's see, the first year I was here, I was fine. I used my own ATM in the card slots. And one time they just froze my bank account because somebody was using it overseas. So I had to call on my dime. I call up my bank, which is a regional bank. And I call them up, associate. I say, hey, why is my account frozen? They said, well, somebody's using it in the Middle East. And I said, but that's me. I'm the one. I live here. I've called you many times. And I've talked to a personal banker about this. They go, oh, we're so sorry. Well, we're going to have to call and confirm. Is there somebody else registered on your name and on your card? And I said, yes, blah, blah, blah. Get this. A month later, go to the ATM again to get my cash out because I didn't want a local bank account. I wanted to get my cash out with my bank account and not go through that whole banking thing because I agree with you. It's a headache. So I go up to the ATM and it freezes again. And I called up the bank and I said, what's going on? I just went through this. And they said, well, where are you? And I said, of course, I'm in the same country. I'm at the same place. And they said, but let me talk to the manager. So they leave me on hold. They leave me on hold and they go and call the manager and they come back online and they say, well, I'm sorry, sir, but that country's blacklisted. And I said, what do you mean it's blacklisted? And she said, well, we haven't been allowed to bank with that country since about 2 months ago. And I said, my bank card's been working for 2 months, and I called you last month about it. Who's going to tell me? She said, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. Is there some other way? We bank in 139 different countries. And I said, yes, but you're not in those extra 61 that I need. I had to go to another country and take money out in another currency with my working card, then transfer that money for my local currency, and then come back from that country just so I had some local currency. Forced to open up a bank account here, and I didn't want to. But I'm glad I did because most countries, you have to have some local currency. And the best way to do it is through the bank. Except for Venezuela, the best way is through one of your friends.
That's one of the things I love about being an expat is anytime you can open your wallet, you probably have 3 to 4 different currencies in your wallet, and you can flexibly use and calculate their exchange rates in your head within seconds.
Matt, I have to admit to you, I agree with you 100%. In fact, I know I'm on vacation when I have 5 currencies in my wallet. Because we're traveling through certain countries and we're going to other countries. Definitely, I have a little, I don't know about you, but your family must have this little lockbox or something where you have a flow of like currencies you can't even remember where they are from. Unless you look at the bills, right?
Yeah.
I love the Maldives money.
My kids seem to want to lose their teeth when we go to the Maldives. And so a couple of them have wallets full of Maldivian money. But get this, though. One of my kindergartners was like, yeah, but the Maldivian money isn't worth as much as blank currency. And Stacy and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, holy cow, he's 6 and he knows, that currency you might have, that might say 50 on it, but it's not worth what the other currency is. I thought that was kind of cool.
Tooth fairy from one country doesn't have the same value as a tooth fairy from another country. I think that's fascinating.
Agreed.
I love your twins, man. That is really great that they can figure that out because they hear you talk about it all the time too. Right?
Yeah. That's probably what they pick up. Well, Greg, I think we should probably wrap this one up because we've been going for a little while and I got to go to the beach.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I'm not going to go to the beach. I think I'm going to, do the editing for this podcast and say thank you to all our listeners. It's good to have Matt back. Thank you, Matt. I love your stories. 100 hours of power. We talked a little bit about resources, so you can go back through there. But thank you very much for listening to us. We are the International Teacher Podcast with Greg, the family guy. No, wait, Greg, the single guy, and
well, Greg, you did live in Venezuela. You might be Greg, the family guy. You just don't know it. Just kidding, Pat and Dave. I'm just kidding.
I hope not.
I'm Matt, the family guy, and we are signing off. Thanks, everybody.